this character I already know, but as we all know, Dr. Snap is a friend. But oddly enough, his official art is not a good representation of how much friend he is, because it's literally the only time you ever see him frowning ever in the entire history of the game, ever. Like, it's notable, like, in-game literally characters say, oh, he's always smiling, that's like his notable character trait. And like, yeah, so apparently the reason why he's frowning on the official art is because it's a character trait that was lost in the English translation. It's in Japanese. Dr. Snap has relatable social anxiety. He's like really nervous about, like, in English it was changed like, oh, he's only slightly nervous about talking in crowds, and then you have to find an out of your way NPC to learn this fact. Whereas in Japanese it's like it's stated right out front. He's like social anxiety in general, and he's like very relatable autism mood, to be honest. Like, I am like 99% convinced that either the character was intended to be autistic in Japanese, or it was just like a coincidence that like they were writing like the tropes of like traditional mad scientists, and just a coincidence that most of them happen to also be in common with autism. But like, seriously, he's so relatable autism mode in Japanese, and literally everything about this entire thing was removed in English, and it's very strange. But yeah, that's why his official art, he's all frowning, is because this is him like being nervous and anxious, and you can see that in some of the pre-release magazine scans from Japan. It was like the only information that was given about the character is a mysterious, nervous scholar man. What relation could he possibly have to the main plot and stuff like that? So it seems like his official art was designed to like not give away too much about his character, aside from the fact that he's like nervous, but then like not show what his personality is after he like comes out of his shell, which is really overwhelmingly cute and friend. Like, he's like 100% friend, and he's so much friend, like so much absolute friend. He spends the entire game doing like a little like free-shaped kitty mouth, and like he's just so friend and so pal. His entire motivation is like, he's like the traditional archetype of like the mad scientist, like, oh, I'm studying the evil monster world and I want to go to the evil monster world. But like, for him, like, his entire motivation for that is just he thinks monsters are cute, and that's why he wants to do it, and he doesn't realise that it's a bad thing that's going to be like evil and destroy the world, because he just thinks his monster friends are cute and he loves them. And it's like, again, all of this was lost in the English dub. There's so much bad stuff in the English dub of this game in particular. Like, I could make a whole extra video about that in specific. I can tell you exactly why I'm a fan of this character who doesn't have many fans in English. It's because his personality was wildly and completely changed in the English dub. They just took this guy who was like a morally complex, like funny comedy cute man, and then removed all his jokes, which for one is like, why would you do that? Why would you remove things that make the game better? And then they also removed all his sympatheticness. Like, in the dub, he's just changed like a regular guy who is evil and who's going to the magic monster world because he's evil. And then it's like, in Japanese, his motivation was, I love monster our friend. Here's a big official art of me hugging a puppy, which, like, that's not this art, but there's another. I'll put that on screen. I'll put the little kitty mouth on screen. I'll put all the images of pleasant smiling grandpa on screen so you can see the contrast. And like, I feel like it's bad unluckiness that his official art just happened to have like a neutral expression on his face, like which would fit perfectly with his personality being changed entirely to not being super cheerful and nice. And I'm just like, ooh, if only they'd chosen to have the puppy hugging one be the official art in the magazines before pre-release, and ooh, all this problem could have been solved. They couldn't have got away with this. Oh, those meddling kids in Nintendo of America. Sorry, I've been right off topic. But reasons why Dr. Snap's design is very friend. He's got a nice contrast of his colours. He's got lots of blue on his head, and he's got lots of like red on his head. And he's got like calming yellows and stuff, and like he's got a fancy design. He's got like a very regal looking coat. And then the rest of him isn't very regal. It's all like very down to earth and scholarly. The notebook he's carrying is like not a very fancy notebook. It's a field notebook and all that. And he's got like big nerdy glasses and adorableness. And he's all grampy and fragile and hugs and cute. And like, you can't see him much in this particular. But when you see like an unzoomed out version of the whole design, you see that his coat is actually way too big for him and drags along the ground, which makes me feel like it's like a metaphorical representation for like how he doesn't quite fit into the role of like being a regal important man, which is basically his entire plot. To summarize it up, is like he's a goofy and silly man who is too nervous to do his like important job as the tournament announcer for this big monster tournament, and he just wants to do his silly research and hug his monster friends, and that leads him to like absolute madness and becoming the villain and he basically accidentally becomes the villain without knowing he's the villain. And like, seriously, this guy is just he literally has so much friend energy that he became the bad guy. I wouldn't even say he's evil, he became the bad guy, as in the role of the plot, he is the bad thing in the plot. He's the obstacle in the plot, but he's not a bad person, he's not intending any of this to be bad, he's so absolutely optimistic that he cannot comprehend the existence of evil, to put it that way. Like, he doesn't get that you're warning him that what he's doing is wrong and is going to cause a big disaster. He can't believe that. He just thinks it must be wonderful because he loves his monster friends so much. In Japanese, he literally calls his monsters his children. He calls his monsters his children using an incredibly over the top cutesy word for it. He's basically like, when I was talking with my friend Sparrow, who does yeah, who's the amazing translator person who's been doing the retranslations of all the Dr. Snap scenes for me, and I'll link that in the comments, and yeah, when I was talking with them, I'm really going off topic. I'm like maximum hyperfocus now. Oh my god, I've interrupted this video. You know what? I'm gonna cut this section out of the video and make it its own separate video. I really appreciate whoever decided to put my favourite character in this list of characters I don't know, but it's kind of made me go entirely off topic, and I'll probably put this in a separate video. But yeah, what was I on about? I've totally gone off topic. I'm talking too fast for my brain. I'm braining too fast for my words to keep up. I really like the character a lot, but yeah. Yeah, I've forgotten what I was going to say about the translation. Maybe when I watch this back, I'll figure it out. But I was recently talking to my translator friend who's been doing the retranslations of the Dr. Snap, and today we've been talking about how he has like three entirely separate cute sentence mannerisms in Japanese that were all removed in English. Like, literally in Japanese he ends every sentence with like a cute word that indicates he's cute, and like it seems like it's physically impossible for the translators to have missed the fact that this character was incredibly cutesy and like adorable and like motherly and loving and wonderful with every single thing he says. Someone on the dubbing team must have like outright disliked this character, or figured there was some reason to change him entirely for the plot. Maybe they thought the plot was too dark to have like an absolute 100% heroic, like non-evil character who tragically falls from grace due to like the corruption of his own good intentions, and like they thought like let's turn him into a boring, super boring regular villain who's boring and ruin the entire plot of the game because otherwise we don't want to make the children sad. I don't know. Dr. Snap's entire plot was about not making the children sad, but that's what I was talking about. In Japanese, he calls his monsters his children, and he does it in like a really overly cutesy way, where it's like kodomo is the word for children, but he shortens it to ko. Which is like my friend Sparrow, the translator, said that the equivalent might be like calling like your kids like your little ones or your whippersnappers or something like that. I do like the idea of whippersnappers because it would be a pun on his English name, but in the retranslation we're changing his name to be a better translation of his Japanese name, so the pun wouldn't make sense in that context anyway. Because his Japanese name has nothing to do with Dr. Snap. He's not called a doctor in Japanese. I don't know why they did that. It's like, in both versions, he's like the chairman of the tournament organisation, and he's also a scholar of monsters who is like a monster doctor. But like one of those is his actual job he's doing, and one of those is like his previous job he was doing. So it makes no sense for him and his current job to be constantly called Dr. Snap rather than Chairman Snap. And the funniest thing is, not funny, but the interesting thing is, there's actually one point in the entire game where they do call him Chairman Snap, whereas well, I can't remember exactly the point where it is, but it was like at some point during the sort of like middle end of the game, like around the 75% point. If you go back to Palais Isle, I think either Palais Isle or it might have been Celeste Isle, and you look at the notice board, you can find one slightly mistranslated newspaper article where the characters call him Chairman Snap instead of Dr. Snap, which indicates to me they may have actually had like an accurate translation of it. Well, Snap is still not accurate because his name was nothing to do with Snap in the first place, but like they might have had like an actual accurate translation of his title originally. originally, and then someone went back and like auto-corrected, like find and replaced all of it and missed one of them. I don't know, because that might also explain why there's a bit of a inconsistency in it though. Sometimes they call him Dr. Snap and sometimes they call him Commissioner Snap. Sometimes they're calling him both in the same sentence, and it's quite confusing. It seems the occupation of the chairman of a tournament organisation was changed to the commissioner of a tournament organisation, but they still call him Dr. Snap. But then some characters do call him Commissioner Snap, and it's confusing. It's confusing. There's a lot of inconsistencies in the game. There are several times things were translated into two different things depending on the situation. One time where two different things were translated into one thing for some reason. There's literally an item which is like not Darkonium, and the dub translated into Darkonium. Like you have Darkonium and you have this other thing that's not Darkonium. It was called I think it was called like Darkuel or something. It was like and the description was like Darkonium is like the coal equivalent and Darkuel is like the diamond equivalent. Like they're both different versions of the same thing. Only one of them is considered valuable to sell, which makes sense why you can only sell one of them. But in the English dub, it makes no sense why you can sell some Darkonium and not other Darkonium. So I'm going off all the right old confusion here, but just thank you so much for the excuse to blabber on about Dr. Snap a lot. But anyway, he says a lot of cute sentence enders. In Japanese, he ends almost every sentence by going ne, which is like it's like ne and dayo and all these. I don't know how to pronounce them correctly, but like it's apparently common traits that are common to like cutesy characters in anime. Like you're more likely to hear these from like cat girls. And one thing is, in Japanese he has a distinctive laugh of going yeah, which is literally like in English that might sometimes be used for like maniacal like mad scientists as an alternative version of mwahaha, but in Japanese it's exclusively used by anime cat girls, like anime cat girls and Dr. Snap. If you there's like so many posts on Japanese Twitter of people like finding an anime cat girl in some sort of gacha game and be going, it's Dr. Snap. Like he seems to be much more popular in Japan, which is like definitely a big old point of like seriously, like it shows how much the change to his character like were a huge detriment to the character. He has like a decent following and is still remembered years later now. He still gets fan art made of him by people other than me in Japan. Like I'm literally like I don't think I'm the only person who likes Dr. Snap in English, but like I'm the only person on Twitter who is really like making a big old fuss about him at the moment. Like I'm trying to hold the fandom above water by myself and with the help of my friends who I commissioned to do nice arts of him, and like I had so many lovely commissions and fan arts from all my friends and stuff, but anyway, I'm going off topic. I'm starting to think about how much I love and cherish my friends. Oh my gosh, I really love and cherish my friend. Whichever friend put the excuse to talk about Snappy here, I love. But yeah, that's one thing I've been doing today with my translator friend, is we've been trying to track down how to pronounce this one sentence ending he does. Like, because my friend is Japanese, they know how to pronounce it, but they can't explain it by writing text. They're just like always like the plosive sounds, like when you put your tongue on the opposite side of your mouth as opposed to the N sound in like yawn, because that's how it's like the word is like spelt as yawn, but it's like a tilde in the middle and it's like a stretched out like thing, and it's like it's not going to be like yawn, it's like yawn or something like that. But apparently it's like I've been told it's like some sort of like a wavering sound in the middle where it sounds very sing-song, and that's why it's traditionally like a really cutesy thing for cutesy characters to say. And I'm trying to wrap my brain about it. I've been told it's not like the N in human, it's like the N in song, and like But yeah, and we haven't been able to find a reference of like any like how to pronounce it, because every time I type it in like how do you pronounce it, like I get given like how to pronounce yawn, because Google Translate does not seem to be taking the tilde into account, and it gives you literally a definition of yawn, which like means four in Japanese, which is not what's being said at all. It's kind of funny because like it's a variation of a sentence ender yo, which obviously means something completely different to yawn because it's not the same word. But like if you stretch out the yo and put like an n, a subtle n sound, it's like a subtle n sound. It's like the n in song, but not the n in words which actually have n in them. And I'm just like, my mind is being blown. You cannot explain like pronunciation through words. I don't understand when people try to explain like the universal pronunciation guides and stuff like that. I can't wrap my mind over it. but yeah, anyway, that's what we're trying to figure out, is like, and we found out that Dr. Snap is like literally cuter than characters who are cute, and like There's a character who is like a very similar character archetype to what Dr. Snap is in Japanese. His name is Lord Sullivan from the anime called Welcome to Demon School Iruma-kun. Meaning my pronunciation. You can see how bad I am at pronouncing it Japanese here. But yeah, in that anime there's a character who like is literally his entire archetype as being like an overblown, super cutesy, super loving grandpa who spoils his grandson very much. And that guy says this big old palette of cute words less often than Dr. Snap does. Like, that just shows me, like, this is the closest thing I've found to finding a reference for how Dr. Snap talks in Japanese. And this guy does not say the extended version of yo. He says yo sometimes, and he says nay often. In Japanese, Dr. Snap says nay, like, all the time. And he says yo, like, 50% of the time. And, like, he says yo, yon, however you do the long ended yo, like, at like the cute, like that was one big translation mistake. You know that bit at the end of a game where like Dr. Snap is like, "Oh, now I'll destroy you," and ha 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 ha. In Japanese, that was literally a joke about him being too kind to be able to pull off that kind of threat. Like in English, it just comes off as a literal threat. It's just like, "Oh yeah, Dr. Snap must be really evil after all," and he's just being evil. In Japanese, it's like an entire joke about how he has this big long speech about like, "Oh, if you stand in the way of my dreams, I'm gonna have to like do something not very nice to you," which is like the closest thing I can get to an equivalent in English, because like in Japanese it's like he says a generic villain threat but with a sentence ender of like the really long yo, and that's basically like, apparently it's like literally the cutest sentence end ever. Again, maximum anime cat girl moment here, but he says like a dramatic cliche villain threat in the cutest way possible. So it's basically the big old joke is like he cannot pull off being a villain even when he's being a villain, and then that was just changed to like by taking away the funny like misdirect, like the first half of the sentence looks like he's gonna say something scary and then he doesn't. By taking away the sentence end, they lose that entirely and he just says something scary and like proves he's evil after all and all that. And the thing is, it's very difficult to figure out how to translate that in English because, like, of course we don't have sentence enders like tone in. And basically, the only questions we have is tone indicators on the internet, but you can't really like use that in actual speech. So like the only question I would think about is like having some sort of joke where like he starts off saying some sort of like super threatening threat, but then he messes up in a second section, or maybe he like starts off saying a threat, but then he says something that's like completely underwhelmingly not good, like if you stand in the way of my dreams, I'm not going to give you a gold star for that, or like I'll flick you on the nose slightly, or I don't even know, something like that. But just that's why we really need to figure out how to pronounce the yon, because I need to make a video pronouncing exactly about how the yon and how the yon is the cutest yon, and like examples of the yon being used by cute characters in animes to prove that Dr. Snap is cute, and why this line in particular is important to continue being translated cute, because by not making it translate cute, you entirely lose the joke that he's not really meaning what he says, because he's actually a super soft guy and he cannot accomplish giving anyone a threat, even at the most desperate moment of his life, when he's like fighting you to whatever. That's literally the purpose of it. This is the last thing he says before the battle starts. So like, it's a very important, purposeful line. It's like the whole purpose of this line is like, hey, we have a super cute character who's like misguided and doing bad things for good reasons. He turns into a big old scary monster. Then he continues talking cutely and doing bad things for good reasons, and it's 100% clear that he has not changed in any way. He has not become more evil. He's never going to be evil. And then you have this fake, like, what if he's finally going to like reveal his true colours? He's going to reveal he was lying about being nice all along, and then he doesn't. And the last thing he says before you fight him is this like pathetically underwhelming taunt, which like it manages to be like legitimately intimidating by being not intimidating at all. Like it makes you feel like wow, he lives up to his values even like in this extreme sex. He's literally become like a gigantic Resident Evil blob monster, and he's still like, I'm gonna be nice and polite to everyone, so help me God. And it's just wonderful, and like so much lost moments in English, and it's like also seriously in Japanese it's actually a twist that Dr. Snap is the villain. Like, you know, in English, they literally reveal he's the villain in the first scene of the entire game, because they reinterpret an entire scene of, like, his introduction to be him, like, oh, I'm secretly plotting, I'm secretly pretending to be nice, because I'm actually evil all along, and he, like, outright says that. He's like, he gets a moment of, like, I accidentally spoke my plan out loud, which in Japanese, they replace that entire scene. Like, in Japanese, it was just a joke, like, oh, ha, funny grandpa, he rambles on a lot because he really cares about science. And then in English, it's changed to, like, oh, secret grandpa plots, he was evil all along, which will tell you 5 seconds after meeting the man. Like, seriously, like, ruining the entire... You know when they tell you in Japanese that Dr. Snap is a villain? When Dr. Snap becomes the villain. You go the entire game not knowing it, and then it's a big surprise because he was a really nice guy, and like suddenly he's the antagonist, and then, oh my god, he's the antagonist, but he's still a really nice guy. He was 100% genuine about being a really nice guy. Oh my god, the moral complexity. They ruined DQMJ by removing the grandpa cute. Of all the games in the world, this is the one where, like, making the grandpa less lovable as creating, like, a critical plot hole, because, like, in English, none of his plan makes sense. He's just like, if you're a villain, why didn't you just kidnap the Incarnate right away? If you're a villain, why did you care about, like, doing any of this? Like, why did you care about doing it at the time of the tournament or anything? Like, but no, in Japanese, he's just like, his plan doesn't make sense as an evil plan because he does not think it's an evil plan. He is legitimately doing things that he thinks are nice, but they're not actually nice, but he doesn't listen to you warning about the dangers and about how the thing that he thinks is nice is going to have negative consequences. The reason why he waits until the end of the tournament to do it all is because he genuinely cares about his job being the tournament chairman. In Japanese, one of his lines is like, I'm not just the tournament chairman, I'm the biggest fan of the tournament. It's I became the tournament chairman because I'm the biggest fan of the tournament, and like, he genuinely cares about his job, and he cares about, like, monster battles in general. He loves monsters. He genuinely loves monsters. That is his entire motivation. He genuinely loves monsters so much. He loves them all like his precious children, and he wants them all to be happy. And he thinks going to the magical monster portal in the sky will make him happy. He doesn't realize that, like, hey, opening this is going to destroy the entire human world. And it's just like, why would all the humans care about not being humans anymore? Why don't we all just turn into monsters? I mean, monsters are amazing. It's like he just doesn't get it. He just loves his kids. He loves his kids so much that the world explodes. And then it's like, seriously, why did they deny us this cute? Why did they deny us this cute? I think I've blabbered on for about 20 minutes right now, and like, of 30 minutes I've been doing this video, oh my god. I think I'm going to take a pause now. I'm genuinely, like, I've overheated my entire throat. I've run out of speaking energy because of how much I went off on a ramble about Snappy. Like, oh my god. Thank you so much for this motivation, whichever one of my friends put this one in here, because I want to do a proper video essay about the bad translation changes for Dr. Snap, and like my analysis of Dr. Snap, and like why I think he's a good character, and like why I think he's a redeemable character, and like exactly the changes that were made for him, and like why he's become less redeemable in the English version, and why I think that was bad, and why I think that ruins the point of the game, because like you removed all the moral complexity of the ending. Like, seriously, there was genuine story reasons for the grandpa to be cute, and like, yeah, I've been wanting to do a ramble video. Like, I've been too nervous. I've been too nervous to like go full hyper focus and talk about how much I care about this character. I'm worried I'll be like super cringe and everyone will laugh at me. So thank you so much for this like having like sudden jump scare your favorite character in the middle of like me already like getting motivated talking about something else has given me the motivation to talk about my favorite character for once, and I'm glad. I've been found motivated. I'm getting some practice at talking about my favorite character, and when I look back at this, I'm probably gonna like rewatch this and it's all gonna be super cringe, but like at least I've got this out of the way now. I've had one practice, and then like I can work on practicing how to say this in a less cringe and less embarrassing way, which is like less I just really want to hug this poor character. He had like such a bad life in his it's like, seriously, his entire plot is just, he's so good, but he's bad. Like, he deserved so much better. He's just a lovely fellow. He's a lovely fellow, and then he gets like the most horrible ending in the entire world. Like, he literally dies twice for the ones he loves. Like, he melted into a gigantic Resident Evil blob because he cares so much about about the monsters he loves, his monster friends, and then after becoming an undead creature, he also gets killed in like a really horrible way, dissolving into dust because he was trying so hard. Like he dies. Like that's the saddest thing. He dies like with the false hope that like, oh, by making this sacrifice, then all my monster friends will still get to go to the magic happy monster world. And then it turns out like 5 seconds later he was wrong, and he didn't understand what was going on, and like it didn't work, and like you saved the world anyway. And I'm like, this game makes you feel guilty for saving the world. Like, we saved the world, but at what cost? Like, you're weighing up the entirety of the world and this incredibly pleasant, lovable character, and it's really hard to make that choice. But yeah, so many words to talk about Dr. Snap, and I really need to take a drink because I've talked too many words about Dr. Snap. I think I'm going to take a pause and then come back and do the rest of it, the rest of the characters, because oh my god. Ha! Oh my snap! Oh my snod!